TheBradRules!
Back in 2011, a Sonic fan by the name of Lake Feppard decided it was time to make a prequel that would bridge the gap between Sonic 1 and Sonic 2. It would be a fan game by the name of Sonic Before the Sequel. Now you might say, wouldn't that be Sonic CD? But let's face it, despite Sonic Origins coming along in 2022 and clearing up the oddity that is Sonic CD's place in the timeline, the story between 1 and 2 is largely unexplored when it comes to Tails being introduced despite what is discussed in the instruction manuals. Enter Sonic Before the Sequel. The game is fully complete and even has several iterations with different features that are made by other people, two of which I played and will be looking at today. This is quite the ambitious fan game and it plays very well. Has some really cool flash cutscenes and even features a dazzling OST that even famed Sonic music composer Jun Sonoe has publicly said he enjoys. Now you have a few options of playing this game. You can play the original, which is 4x3, which requires you to adjust the compatibility for Windows. However, I played the Fixed Edition and Plus versions. The Fixed Edition can run in newer versions of Windows without any tweaking, and you can alter the flash cutscenes to WMV format, but you can just simply download a third-party flash player so you can view them in their intended format, and it's also in 4x3. The other version I played is Before the Sequel Plus, which is in widescreen, has reworked cutscenes, a new sprite for Tails, the drop dash, and you have the option to use the original OST, which reuses a lot of music from other games. I was trying to figure out the save system in the Fixed Edition, but I tried seemingly everything and couldn't figure it out, and there's no clear answers online. So I utilized the level select, which you can access by pressing the U key on the main title screen. Little did I know that it was actually hidden in this menu, and you need to select normal mode to access your save file. Luckily, this issue is rectified in the Plus version. The Plus version's biggest weakness is the cutscenes. They look quite bad in comparison to the Flash originals. I'm not sure why the developers on this project opted to do this, considering that Adobe was still supporting Flash at the time of this version's release. Choosing the version you want to play truly comes down to what you want more, widescreen support or better cutscenes. The craziest thing about the Plus version is that they still didn't implement an actual way to close the game without having to force it closed. Like, you either have to Control-Alt-Delete your way out or press the Windows key to get to your desktop so you can right click and close the application. So the game takes place just as Eggman has started building the Death Egg, and Sonic and Tails take notice. So let's take a look at the levels and see what takes place in this very creative fan game. Hilltop Heights is up first, and Act 1 is a mix of Hilltop Zone and Sky Sanctuary, and Act 2 and 3 keep to the hilltop aesthetic. I love the rain effect, and it's crazy to me how none of the classic series games ever implemented this effect. You'll run into Eggman, who's driving a car with huge wheels, and I love that it's a chase. To me, this type of boss is perfect for Sonic, and one of the many reasons I love Sonic Advance 2 so much. I'm not sure why they made the decision to put eyes on all of Eggman's machines in this game. It's kind of an odd choice and a little goofy looking. The music is fantastic, and you'll see the brilliance of how the boss music actually maintains some of the melody from the levels music. That is such a nice touch, and I wish more Sonic games would follow suit. Star Shores is next, and you'll switch off to Tails here, and I love how they formatted this game where you go from level to level, switching from both characters. You'll run into Fuzzies from Yoshi's Island here, and an interesting crossover. And much like in that game, if you touch them, you will get dizzy. You'll eventually come face to face with a spherical robot that will menace Tails throughout the game, and I like how Tails has his own rival to worry about, while Sonic worries about Eggman. Rocky Ride Zone follows, and it's a pretty fun stage where you can keep the pace up very nicely with a very cool mountain setting. Even if it is very similar to Hilltop Heights, it differs in appearance and design, and it's a nice sense of continuity from that stage. There's also a really nice sense of verticality here as you keep climbing your way up through the level. I did run into a soft lock on the spring while playing the Fixed Edition, but thankfully it's not a problem in Plus. Lost Level Zone comes next, and it's one of my favorite areas in the game as Tails explores the cut levels from Sonic 2, including a different take on Hidden Palace in Act 1. A very well realized version of Wood Zone in Act 2, and in Act 3, there's a combination of Dust Hill and the winter themed level that was meant to be a palette swap of Dust Hill. This is very clever. The orb-shaped robot comes back in a Sonic Colors-esque boss fight reminiscent of the Rotatatron fight, complete with the boss music from that game. Sonic runs through Sunset Star Zone next, and this is a really vibe-inducing stage with a star-filled sky as Sonic navigates along a highway with a ton of ramps and speed opportunities. If you fail to finish Act 1 by taking the top path, you will be tasked with collecting stars in Act 2 to be able to advance while you try to avoid a barrage of cars waiting below. I like the design of the boss here as you platform your way up to deal damage to Eggman. I like having a bit more to do in boss fights, and this one definitely keeps me busy. Metro Madness Zone is up next, and Tails must make his way through a really atmospheric stage that is a subway area. I love the detail of having these digital wanted posters of Sonic. There's a puzzle element at play where you will need to shoot a laser at the target to open doors, and strangely in Plus, they disabled these. Maybe as a way of not breaking the pace, but it's funny how the assets are still here. I love the downtrodden, chill Act 3 music that creates a real mood, almost like a film noir style of sorts. The boss has a very well designed mechanic as you have to hit 3 switches in a specific order, but you have to time that third switch press just right so you can hit the boss with an energy blast. Fortress Flow Zone comes next, and what a unique idea for a water level. Instead of having the typical race against time as you trudge through the water trying to get to the next air bubble and try to make it out of the water as soon as possible, this time Sonic remains in the water. In this level, you won't get to leave the water until you reach Eggman. Yup, that's right, you stay submerged the entire time. This idea was also showcased more recently in Sonic Galaxy, which I recently looked at. Sonic used the bubble shield the entire time, and things are a lot faster paced as a result, while still maintaining the proper water physics. I love the boss music as you chase down Eggman and hit missiles back at him as he cuts through the water in a massive vessel, as this smoking hot track plays. And let's have a little listen to that bad boy. Next up is Perilous Paradise Zone, and you'll have quite a bit of traversal to do here, and these acts are quite lengthy and are labyrinth-like. There's a vertical design to a lot of it, and you'll be in and out of the water, but Tails does not get the benefit of a bubble shield. I'm not a big fan of the blinding screen effect that is added in Plus as a bomb is detonated in Act 2. That was a huge mistake. It just makes me want to finish the act as soon as possible so my eyes can readjust to normal. It was well done the way it was originally presented. I guess this was their idea of an enhanced effect, but it's anything but. And what's that I hear in the boss fight? Is that theme music from The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog? Titanic Tower Zone is the next stage, and I really like the effect of the lights going off and the music becoming muffled for a really nice effect. And Tails will be along for the ride for the first time in the game, but only if you're playing the Plus version. And I think that this was a good change because it makes more sense considering the cutscene that comes before it. I like the overall metallic look, and the city background gives me Robotropolis vibes. Tails makes it to Cloudy Crowd Zone next, where he will explore the clouds as a triumphant orchestral version of Believe in Myself from Sonic Adventure plays in Act 1, and it's a musical masterpiece. I really love the design of this stage, and it's the perfect fit for Tails. This is also where Tails' run animation changes to what we see in Sonic 2 as he learns he can use his two tails to propel himself forward. You can change this in the options, but I'd recommend leaving it because it actually fits the story nicely. It's a great stage, and a good way of showing Tails progressing as a character. Arcane Altitude Zone is up next, and it's a very cool stage where Sonic takes on Act 1 and Tails does Act 2. And there's unique power-ups that you didn't have access to previously, granting them special abilities. Sonic gets some pretty tricky anti-gravity segments, and these will really test your skills. Be careful here as Tails, because if you fly on one of these launchers and Tails gets tired, you'll get caught in this awesome loop. Wow, what fun! This happened in Plus, by the way, so I'm not sure if this can happen in other versions of the game, but just be careful nonetheless. Next up, Sonic and Tails will tackle the Death Egg Zone together, and it's only one act, and it's a lot like Arcane Altitude, albeit a lot easier. It's a pretty short stage, and might as well be considered sort of an Act 3 to the previous stage. Then Sonic will face off against Eggman, and this can be a pretty tricky fight until you get down his patterns, and he takes a lot of hits. If you're playing the Fixed Edition or the original version and didn't finish the game in under 2 hours, this is where the game ends, and you can't face off against the final boss as Super Sonic. Well, being that the save feature is a complete mystery in the Fixed Edition, using the level select didn't meet the requirement. But in the Plus version, I was able to do so, and this fight is a joke. I mean, all you do is hit Eggman as Super Sonic doesn't lose rings. There's rings to collect, but the counter never decreases, which seems like a massive oversight in the Plus version. It's not like this in the Fixed Edition or original, but I love the Super Sonic sprite though. It looks really good. And the 7th Chaos Emerald joins the other 6 to bridge the gap between Sonic 1 and Sonic 2 for a very nice sense of continuity. There's also some hidden stages as well. If you spam the U key in Rocky Ride Zone, you'll end up in Starlight Carnival from Sonic Colors. This is a really short but very cool 2D rendition of the stage. And check out that background. The other hidden stage is Hilltop Zone, and you can access it by pressing the U key during the cutscene after the first Eggman boss fight. This version of Hilltop is very complex in design and it's a pretty decent length. Now, what about special stages? You enter them by entering the big rings at the end of the Act 3 stages. And there seems to be an error with Tails getting to enter one in Act 2 of Cloudy Crowd. You don't even need 50 rings. The stages are auto-scrollers and definitely inspired by the Switch stages in Super Mario World as you run along the blocks seen in the special stages in Sonic 1. And it's all about collecting rings and getting extra lives. And there's no emeralds to be had here. In fact, you can't collect them because you already have them. So overall, Sonic Before the Sequel is a pretty satisfying experience, and while other fan games have certainly taken away its spotlight throughout the years, it definitely is worth playing. Lake Fepard would actually go on to develop the Spark the Electric Jester games, which are available on Steam. So the guy actually went from the Sonic fan game scene to becoming the head of his own developing and publishing company, Fepard Games, which is truly impressive. Without a doubt, Before the Sequel inspired others to make their own Sonic fan games, and while it's far from the first, it definitely is one of the most satisfying and one of the few that actually made it to the finish line. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Have you ever played Sonic Before the Sequel? And if you have, what do you think? And if you've never played it before, has this video convinced you to give it a try? I'd love to know. And guys, please subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bells to get all the notifications when I post all my new videos. I want to thank all my subscribers for your continued support. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.